Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. This week's episode is another panel episode, and I am super excited to be bringing it to you with two amazing guests on this. It's Maria and Erica joining me again, and we are going to be talking about deployments, but pretty much any type of separation. We're going to be covering lots of different tips and tricks, and there are different segments of deployment. There is prepping, surviving the actual separation, and then reintegration afterwards. And these three panel episodes that we're going to be talking about deployments or separations will be covering those sorts of things. And a lot of the tips and advice and things that we are going to be sharing work for any type of separation, short ones or long ones. So this can be applicable to anyone, and it doesn't even just have to be military. If you're having to deal with a long distance relationship because of work or something else, or your husband travels a lot for business, some of these same things that we use to survive in military life might be able to help you too. So buckle up, and we're going to share what we have learned in our years of experience as military spouses. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife. Alrighty. Okay, so we are digging into the last part of this conversation, and these episodes are ending up longer than I anticipated, but just because we've got a lot to say. So thank you, Maria and Erica, for holding in and doing all of this, because I know it's taken up a good chunk of your time, and I really appreciate you being here for these conversations, because I feel like there's a lot that can be said to help people with these things. So when we are reintegrating, because reintegration is a thing, I always thought that, they came home and everything was hunky dory and happy and perfect because they were home. And so everything was all better. And then we had our first reintegration, and I'm like, oh, I could not believe how much we fought when my husband first got back. Like, you have that honeymoon period where you're just happy they're home. And then all of a sudden the wheels come off and things happen. I'm going but really quickly, Erica, just say hi to everyone, and then Maria. Okay, we are picking up
You're
this again.
muted.
By this point, I
N-
think I'm muted. Oh,
No,
Maria, you're
Maria's
muted.
muted. I didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, by this point, hopefully everyone knows who Erica and Maria are, but I'm going to just do a really quick one because we're running long on our recording process. And Erica, his husband is former Air Force, did 6+ deployments or something like that. Lots of practice with this. Maria's husband was an Army pilot, and she had lots of fun with deployments too. And now she is a life coach, and she's also getting her master's and homeschools. Erica is a YouTuber, and yeah, her husband is now DOD. So I'm doing the quick intros this time because we got to get into the meat of this, and I'm so sorry I've taken up so much of your day. But all right, basically we're in the what was it like? Because you guys had to do this. We do this on a small basis. My husband, he's gone all the time, but sometimes he'll be gone for 4 days, sometimes he'll be gone for a week, sometimes he'll be gone for a month, and sometimes he's gone for a year. That has only happened once, thank goodness. But so our reintegration is so different because all of our separations are so different. For you guys, what was reintegration like for you?
For
Mm.
me, we just would invite Spencer into what we were doing because we would be in a routine of what we were doing, and we'd be like, "You can come or not," and kind of let him set the pace as he was ready to come into it. But we'd also do things like making sure that we would do things one-on-one with each of the kids, and then we were also really good about doing a date night. Like, okay, we're going to go just us.
Yeah,
And so
one-on-one
kind of
time
giving
is really
everybody that little bit of time.
having time to talk with your
So,
spouse without the kids around so that you can be emotionally honest and not scare the kids that you're fighting is
Mhm.
I something that's helped us. Erica, what about you?
so yeah, we never went through any real integration. We just kind of winged it. Like, like, we just never sought uh, out the help. Um, he came home and, in a sense, just kind of picked up where we left off. the only weird thing was I was so used to doing everything myself, like being
Mm-hmm.
the commander of, where Christian needed to be and getting up in the mornings. I was doing that anyways. I was a stay-at-home mom. So, not a whole lot changed. I will say though, there was one deployment he volunteered for, and it was outside of his career field. And it was more of a military police environment. On that deployment, when he came home, it took a little while for him to get used to domestic life,
Mm-hmm.
because what I didn't know was, until later, was that he was going on convoys, and
Oh, wow.
it was combative. I didn't know that. Yeah, I made the mistake of, like, thinking it was cute when he got out of the shower, because I would, when we would kinda scare each other or do little, like, we would just pull pranks on each other, when we're
Yeah.
taking showers. And yeah, I made that fatal mistake, and he about, he about picked me up and body slammed me down, and that's when I was like, "Oh," and he looked at me, and he's like, "You can't do that." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Shit." That was my, one ignorant moment. And that was a reality of, okay, it wasn't his usual IT deployment, this was different. And yeah, my dumbass, sorry for my, language here, but that was stupid on my part. Um, but I really just, I just kinda left him alone. I let him kinda integrate himself. I didn't push, I didn't nag. It was, "Okay, he's home, and we're just gonna take it slow," and I would say the PTSD he had at the time, it was temporary. It wasn't like anything, um, lifelong.
Mm-hmm.
So after about 6 months or so, it was, we're back to normal. You know, I don't know. We really didn't go through that whole integration thing. But there again, his deployments for the most part, except for that one, wasn't. It wasn't like when he came home, he was a stranger. It was easy for him to just kind of get back in the saddle. And I mean, I was already taking care of the domestic side anyways. It was just what? Going to church on Sundays and, "Oh, let's go to Florida to go see family." We just kinda picked right up where we left off. And I guess in a sense, we were blessed. It was just kinda easy. Um, well, there is another part, but I it's too personal and I can't talk about it.
No, no,
And
no,
I
no.
know
That's okay.
militaries, and I know there are spouses, that and couples that it is a very common issue, but we are just not there yet to talk about, um,
It's okay.
that part of our lives.
No,
We're not
there's a
talking
lot of
about Just kidding.
yeah, it's okay. Pride, personal security, privacy is important, and there are
Yeah,
some things that you don't share on the internet. But this is also why you have support groups. This is why you have
yeah,
friends who are going through this too, because maybe you're dealing with something and it's not something you really want to broadcast. So you go to your chaplain, you
yeah,
go to your buddy, you go to a
right.
resource. Um, Dude, it sounds like y'all were far more understanding wives and chillax than I was, because I was one of those people who are like, okay, everything's gonna be back to normal, right? Okay, let's go do this and that and the other thing. And my husband was not like it. I was,
Remember, I've blocked out my first like 3 deployments. Like they're just not a part of my memory.
I was so rough on my poor husband,
But I think
and it
some of
took,
it too. Like I think some things that come into play is when they come home. Like what time of year is it? What's going on?
hmm
Our last
hmm
Yeah,
deployment,
that's true.
we came home at the end of a school. Like school was just like school had ended, so it was summer. Our routine was changing, and
yeah,
and so
Anyway, yeah,
really good time for him to come home to do that transition. There wasn't the schedule of we have to get kids up and be here and do that and do that. And I left our schedule like some people's their summers get more packed with camps and all these other things. I didn't plan any of those. Like if he was coming home from a deployment, we didn't plan anything. It was just,
Yes.
and so that was part of our, I guess that was really part of our reintegration was we didn't plan things. So it was very free. We had,
Mhm.
church activities on Wednesday nights and girls in scout camp, and that was really it.
Yeah. So that is something I think it's taken me 13 years of military life to finally realize is don't plan anything. Just don't.
Mhm.
You just write
They
off a
need
whole.
to
I
decompress.
finally learned to do that, and this last transition went so much better.
Yeah, they need to decompress when they come home from deployment, and when you have that empathetic understanding of, "Man, they've been through hell these last 4." I can sit here and say, "I've been through hell," but I'm not the one out there in 120-degree weather in these
Hmm.
thick uniforms that's like a sweatshop, on top of your AC, working some days, not working other days. I mean, and 12 to
Sometimes sleeping
16
on the
hour
floor.
shifts, 7 days a week, sleeping in cots, sometimes not sleeping
Hmm.
because the operation of the mission's
Hmm.
24 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
And and an added fact, if you're in a position of leadership and you have people under you, on top of having to ensure that your basic skills of IT still have to be, you're still doing the mission. You're not just pushing paper at the top. You are working. You're working alongside your your troops that are under you. Well, I can't speak for other supervisors and leaders. My husband was a working leader. He was not a manager. So he get down on the
Yeah.
ground with those guys and work with his boys. There wasn't any of this. I'm better than you because I'm your manager or I'm a staff sergeant. No, he didn't take the a-hole stripe in that direction. I don't know if you guys in the Army call it the a-hole stripe, but we do
Yes.
it. We do it in the Air Force to reach staff. It's like, okay, we get it. You're a staff sergeant. Like, who gives a shit? Um, but yeah, I think for some spouses, we just had the maturity and it's just common sense. They've been through
Oh.
hell. So when they come home, give them a freaking break. It's not
Oh
that they
yeah.
don't love you. It's that they're exhausted. They're
Yeah.
tired. And you know what? I have a photo of Raph coming home from his deployments, and he was just passed out on our couch. And our cute little Yorkie was just snuggled up right next to him. And it's one of my
Aw.
favorite photos to look at because he was just so sound asleep like a baby. And you had Sophie that was just snuggled up next to him. And it's one of my favorite pictures to look at when I can find it. Um, and and I loved just looking at him being at home and sleeping because he was home. I didn't
Yeah. And see,
care that he wasn't, holding my hand or cuddling with me or taking me off to some honeymoon. I didn't care about any of that. I was just glad that he was home. And that was it. That was enough for me.
and I think you both have really great points on that because I think our hardest transition was the one where my husband was gone for a whole year. Maria, how long typically were your husband's deployments, or was there a typical length?
We kind of lucked out. So he went 160th right out of basic and AIT. And so those were like 3 to 4 month deployments. And then we did a flight school and we were stationed in Korea when everybody had their long year to 18 months deployments. So we didn't have to do those. So they were typically, and then when we came back after Korea, they had gone to the 9 month rotations.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, so we did the 1 year hardship and then we did one normal deployment
The
and
hardships are
our
almost harder than we did do a hardship.
oh my gosh.
They're
Yes.
almost worse than deployments. At least like his was to Korea, and he's like, they want us to act like we're deployed. They're not feeding us. Like
Hmm.
the DFAC
Oh,
wouldn't open for the hours that they had to work because they had to work 24 hours like they were deployed, but the DFAC wouldn't feed them. So they're like, you guys can have MREs. So people lost money.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And so
I bet.
that made
what?
it bad. But then you're in a country, so like you're in Korea and everybody's there with your families. And like we had been in Korea and had loved it. So that put an extra layer of stress on them. Like, I am here. I am with people who I was here with, 8 years ago. Their families are back here and I'm here pretending to be deployed. This is ridiculous.
Yep.
And he had really bad chain of command that deployment.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
don't we all just
I think
love
some of the
those?
deployments, I think some of the deployments to Korea are some of the ones that I've heard that people have struggled with the most. Our hardship
Mhm.
tour, his was Egypt. And not many people do that Egypt hardship tour. It's a very small slot.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't know a lot of people, and there wasn't a lot of people I could even ask like questions to. And then so we did that, and then we were told when he left for Egypt that, oh, when he gets back, we're going to let you PCS in place. Like, we're going to let him stay where you're at. You're not going to have to move. And then we found out like a few months, like 3, 4 months before he got back, that we were going to have to move cross country the month he got back. And so not only has he been gone a whole year, but then he's going to come home. We have to pack up the house and move cross country in less than a month. And that was the hardest thing our relationship had ever dealt with at the time, because at that time we thought we were going to get the stability because I was having medical and health problems, and I didn't want to restart with doctors and stuff. Thank goodness we moved, because the doctors I had at that duty station were crap, and the ones at the new duty station actually figured out what was wrong and fixed it. So God totally had my back on that one. I was throwing a tantrum and being a total pain in the butt because I didn't see it that way, but God had a plan, and I just need to learn to trust him. But that was our hardest thing. The best part we did, if you ever have to do a big separation and then a move, this is the recommendation. I don't know why we decided to do this, but we did, and it saved our marriage. That's not hyperbole. That is literal. It saved our marriage. We left our kids with his family. We drove halfway. We dropped off the kids. We left them there with his family and his mom and one of his single brothers, and they were going to bring the kids a week later. And we got to the duty station a week ahead of time to look for houses and things like that. Oh my gosh, some of the biggest fights of our marriage were that week, but we were able to work things out, and we were able to just have time to talk, and we were able to, like, because I don't handle change well sometimes. I'm improving. I have improved. My husband will even admit I've improved. But it was really rough, and I'm so glad we had that week to kind of like just, you know, be real with our emotions, and we didn't have to censor ourselves because we didn't want to worry the kids, and they were able to just play with cousins. And it was so good for us, because that was just the hardest one, because not only were we trying to reintegrate, but we were trying to move cross country with 3 little kids, and that was just a nightmare.
Another thing for us too is whenever Raph would end a deployment, most of the time we would just go to Florida. So, because the family wanted to see him. Oh, he's back, and of course, parents want to see their kids. And so we would always make it a trip. Well, he always had time off. He would have some R&R time coming back from deployment, and we would go to Florida. And we had family that would watch Christian, and we had time to just be kids, for lack of better words. We're theme park nerds, so where were we? We were at Disney, um, or at the beach again. So, and there again, I just let him just kind of followed his lead, and if he wanted, if he was in the mood to do something, okay, well, let's do it. If he wasn't, I didn't push. Okay, we don't
Yeah.
have to do this. You want to just veg at mom's and just sleep all day, that's cool. If um you so I kind of just followed his lead. But that's another element to our, I guess, integration, but it's nothing
Just
compared
not
to
do
other
stuff.
military spouses. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes doing
Yeah, just
nothing
hang
is
out.
better than doing something.
Yeah.
Or going, yeah, and then also doing things that they enjoy. Like, do they have
Yeah.
a hobby that they really enjoy, and can you go and do that together?
Mm-hmm.
So not trying to get some new grand experience, but just the simple things that you enjoyed before
Mhm.
going and doing
Yeah.
that. So that's familiar. It's comfortable.
Yeah.
It was really hard for our youngest with that year one because he was barely 1 year old when my husband left. And so he didn't even really remember daddy. And
Mm,
so that was also something we had to deal with was helping him build a relationship with his dad because he didn't really know who daddy was. And he didn't like it was just a huge struggle. And that's something with little kids that so I loved Maria when you were saying the planning the one-on-one things, like doing those sorts of things. And the thing that helped the most was he saw how much his older siblings loved daddy. And so he learned who daddy was from that.
yeah.
But because he knew his siblings and he's like, if they love him so much, he's got to be a great person. And so that was really helpful. And yeah, I think the best, you guys are right. Wow, I should have known you guys 13 years ago. My life would have been so much better.
But I also
'Cause
think there's the, like you said, them, the siblings liking dad and him figuring out, but also letting dad figure it out. I think so
mhm.
often when
Mhm.
they come home from deployment and these kids do freak out that we want to swoop in and fix it. But sometimes I would just leave, be like, okay, it's you and the kids, I'm out. And so that I
Yep.
wasn't there and they had to figure it out,
Yep.
Mhm.
especially after he'd been home for, had that time to kind of catch up on his sleep or whatnot. Okay, there was some of that pushing them back into it
Yes.
and being okay with it. The kids might cry. They're going to be a little sad. They're not going to know.
Mhm.
But guess what? They're not going to die. They're
Yeah.
going to
Well, and
be fine.
I have different I've moderated my expectations for my husband when he's in charge of the kids. I don't ever have a to-do list for him with the kids. I don't ever expect like a type of meal I would make. I'm like, Go have mac and cheese and hot dogs. I don't care." Like order pizza, whatever. Like that was another thing I learned was to just moderate my expectations. It's like you have time and you do you because we parent differently. My husband, what works for him as a
Yeah.
parent is not what works for me. And I got so used to when he'd come back, I'd tell him, no, 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 this is how we do things. And I'd have to step back and realize, no, that's how I do things. He can do things differently.
And that's why I said sometimes it's good
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
leave and just to give
Yep.
them that time to figure it out.
Yep. And just walk away.
Mhm. I think Christian was oblivious. He was just kind of like, whatever. When when Rick would leave for deployment and come back, he had the idea of, daddy's at work, daddy's fighting bad guys. Okay, and then that was it. Like he was just like,
My oldest
whatever.
would tell people,
And
my dad's killing people. That's what he does for a living. I'm like, stop telling people that. And they're like, what does he do? Fly Apache helicopters. So like, oh, so that is what he does for a living. And I'm like, fair, touche.
Yeah. It's perfectly fine for that to be different. Yeah. And the thing is, kids are resilient. Sometimes we want to
yeah.
like protect them and they've got this. We need to let them be a part of that
Mhm.
relationship too and not try to dictate to them how they reintegrate with their parent.
Yeah.
So my oldest, he was 3 when my husband joined. So he pretty much his whole life was a military brat. And he went on a mission for our church and came home. And I was talking to him. I was like, and we were talking about the reintegrations and homecomings. And I was like, so what's been your favorite? He goes, oh, when I came home, because during my 2-year mission, dad had deployed and come home. And he goes, and then I got to be the one to come home and to see what that was like. And he's like, it's kind of a cool experience to have everybody so excited that you're home and you get to be a part of their life again, of the day to day. And I was like, and so it's kind of a good perspective. Like there's probably some excitement on their side too. Like they're excited to be home. They want to be a part of the family, but they also have to have the space to figure it out. Where do you fit? Because you have made these new routines and different jobs and these different things. And it's like, oh, well, these are what I did before. Are we taking that back? Where does that
Yeah.
fall in?
And letting them have that say in what they're taking back and how quickly and all of that. Oh my goodness. I was one of those uptight wives, and I'm glad I've learned to chill out. Probably not as much as I really could, but it's really funny talking to you two because you two seem to have been, yeah, I definitely should have been your friends years and years ago. Where were you when I first got in? No, but that's why we're doing this. That's the whole point of these panels and these discussions is because I really could have benefited from friends like you, mentors like you guys, when I was being my uptight pain in the butt self. And for anyone who's struggling right now, for anybody who is maybe a control freak like I am, I'm a recovering control freak. Um, just know, A, you're not alone. We don't judge you. We still love you. Um, but there is a much more, there's a less stressful way of handling life than being a control freak as a recovered control freak.
Yeah.
Um, and taking a page out of Erica and Maria's books and just going with the flow and learning how to listen and relax and not overscheduling, because that's what control freaks do. We overschedule, um, is huge. And that will make your life better. So if you're a new military spouse or your husband's gone away for business trips a lot, l- learning to be flexible, learning to let things go is probably going to be one of the biggest blessings you can ever find and give yourself.
Mhm.
Well,
So,
I think you also hit it on it. I had really good mentors when we first joined. I will say that is one of the things that the 160th did really well. And even way back in the early 2000s when we joined, is that those senior spouses really took these new spouses under their wings and mentored them. Like they became my friends. So like, oh, this is how we do this. You need to have a control
Yeah.
journal. These are the things that
mhm.
go in it.
Mhm.
They had the programs in place that I think did set me up for a little bit more success. And it didn't always make it easy. And I am the control freak, and and I'm kind of lucky in the fact that Spencer's like, we have one boss, and because I've always deployed as you're the boss. And so now we're trying to like, if a decision has to be made, even if we vote on it, I get 5 votes. Everybody else gets 1.
Oh,
So I can be outvoted, but everybody else has to agree. And that's kind of our joke. I get way more votes. But somebody has to be the boss. Somebody has to be the person who makes the final decision. And so even recently, like I was the girls' camp leader, and we really like the girls to plan camp. And I was like, I'm all open to your ideas and we'll make everything happen. But when a decision has to be made, I'm making it and that's done. We're done. We're not arguing about it. It just is. And so
Yeah.
and that's a good thing.
and maybe some people were like, well, that wouldn't work in our marriage and that doesn't work, but it works well for us. And so finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And if there's something really important to Spencer, he's a lot more chill than I am. He's really
Mhm.
good at compartmentalizing. I think because he just had a rough childhood and different things and had to learn to put things in their boxes and not dwell on them. So I get to be
Mhm.
I am I don't know. Like that sounds really bad. Like I am the boss. Really, we make all the decisions together. But when it has to be made in that moment, it comes to me to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's mhm.
I had good mentors too. Even before Raf joined, when we were in that early, before signing the dotted line, you feel like you're signing your life away. My mother-in-law took me under her wing and she taught me a few things. My in-laws had get-togethers where they would invite their retired friends over to the house because everybody I feel always ends up retiring in Florida for some reason, or at least the boomers that retired from the military. I swear, are all in Florida, and they would invite them over, and their friends would sit me down and not only say, "Hey, welcome to the family," but then they would just kind of have honest, and hard conversations. They weren't rude, but they were very matter of fact.
Yeah.
Uh, you can't be concerned with this and this. You're gonna have to trust him. This is how it is in military life, and you're either going to mature up and accept what that situation is, or your marriage isn't gonna make it. It's basically, uh, you think you're grown up now, you're really about to find out what it means to be. to have to grow up. And it's not that they were being rude, but they were being realistic, and they were setting us up for those realistic expectations because they wanted us to
Yes.
succeed. And then when we got to our first assignment, we actually gravitated to the older leaders. And I guess it was just even his supervisors were noticing y- you're in your mid 20s. We know that you're older than your 18-year-old counterparts that are just out of high school and joining the military. So we had that going for us. But a lot of them were like, "Gosh, you're this airman, but you're acting like this, E6, or E7."
Mm-hmm.
And so we always, not that we intentionally hung out with, because you have that fraternization stuff going in there too.
Yeah.
But when we would see them, or like at those unit events or the mandatory fun days, and they would invite the families out. Those were opportunities for, those older, well-established military couples to talk to us noobs, and, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you guys, coping, being overseas, and anything I can do, or here's my advice," and they would just take you under your wing. So between that and then my in-laws and all their retired friends, uh, it and I had Raph too, having grown up in it from the military brat perspective. He was bringing in that aspect of, growing up and what our son is going to experience growing up in the military. Because I had,
Yeah.
what's he going to go through? How is this going to affect him? But yeah, we had that support before, during, and I guess after. I mean, it kind of feels like we never left where we're
Yeah.
at now.
But like finding those mentors is important. I will admit I struggled really hard to find mentors. And looking back, I think there were a couple people who were trying to mentor me, but I wasn't really receptive to the way they were trying to mentor me. But when I finally found some mentors that I felt comfortable and confident with, and that were willing to they weren't going to put up with my crap.
Sugarcoat.
No offense. Yeah.
Yeah, I
They
had a couple of
yeah,
those.
they were just going to be like, "Yeah, you need to stop whining, you're the problem." And sometimes you need to hear
Yeah.
that. You don't want to hear it, but sometimes you need to hear that. Anyway, I'm really grateful for that. And that's part of the reason why I'm grateful for these panels. So thank you, Erica. Thank you, Maria, for taking time out of your days, for being willing to do these panels, because I feel like if there are military spouses out there, if there are people out there who are struggling, find a mentor. We're going to be here. We're going to share what we can, but also try to find mentors too, and try to find someone, because there are, like Maria was saying, every problem is solvable. You can solve there is a solution to every problem, and it may not be easy to find, but it's there. So you can do this. That's the takeaway here. You can do this and find a good mentor, because I wish I had found a good mentor sooner. My mom tried to, but moms can only say so much, as Maria is probably learning with her adult kids. You can only, and Erica, I'm not there yet, but like you can only say so much, and sometimes they listen and sometimes they don't. And I'm
Yeah.
thick-headed. I am. But I've learned now. So if you are like me and you're out there, please don't be dumb like me for as long as I was dumb. Listen, know that we love you. And even if we smack you upside the head, it's probably for your good. So,
And if it
but
takes you a while, it's okay.
yeah. All right. Last minute, Erica, Maria, anything you want to throw out there? Share with anyone?
You're doing better than you think.
Mm, yeah.
Most of the time, you're doing better than you think. You're your own worst critic.
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And we will wrap this all up, everyone. And don't worry, we will be back with more of these panels. The next ones are going to be covering moving and travel. And so we'll have some fun stuff. But yeah,
Mm.
next set of panels, moving and travel. All right. And
I want to end this episode by giving a shout out to all of you who have supported me through these efforts with the interviews and the episodes and the scheduling and everything, for your input and your comments and your feedback. Thank you for everything you have done to encourage and keep this project going. I want to be able to build a community of military support where we can help uplift and encourage each other. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, click it and stick it to the algorithm so that we can continue to build this community and help each other out. More than anything, let's be the good that we want to see in the world. And as always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.